All right, that is it for the video game news this week. So we're going to hop into board game crowdfunding corner. We've got 7 games that we're going to look at. Most of them, and well, I guess all 7 of them, and before September 20th, kind of within the next, what is that, like 10 to 15 days-ish.
Yeah.
First up is this one with a weird name. I don't even know how to say it. How would you say that, Devin?
Sneferu.
Sneferu. Yeah, Sneferu, Builders of the Pyramids. Maybe that's like some word in ancient Egyptian that I just don't know. But cool idea here, in my opinion. It's like a pretty light, simple 45-minute game for 1 to 4 players. The art is done by the Micho. He's a pretty famous artist in board games. He did, like, I have Architects of the West Kingdom, and he did that art. I also had Coloma for a while. He has a very distinct art style, kind of this halfway cartoony looking art. So I think the art's really good. And then this designer designed another pretty popular game called Project L, which is kind of like a riff on Tetris, with like putting these different shaped pieces onto these cool cards. It had a really cool like vibe. This one looks somewhat not similar in like the Tetris-y vibe, but as far as like the chunky tile kind of drafting vibe, you take a token out of this tray, and that tray will like determine how much food and how much time you have to pay for the tray, or for the token you take. And then you have to pay those things. With the food is an actual token that you have, like currency. And then time, you move your boat on this time track to pay for time. And then you put those tiles on your own little personal kind of board that is in the shape of a pyramid. Eventually, you're going to, yeah, and that's showing the time track there. Eventually, you're going to like close off a connection of colors. So I think they show here, yeah, he's closed off this green set of 3. So he made a set of 3 connecting, so he gets a bonus of 4 foods for that kind of connection. So it's a pretty simple tile placement game where you're trying to connect patterns on your own board. But I like, it seems very simple to play. Like that bag just refills whatever token was taken. And for a light game like this, I don't know. I kind of like the vibe that it's going for. Need to read the rulebook a little bit more just to see exactly what the, I guess, mechanism behind the time track is and kind of the point of moving your boat. I did see some different colored spaces on it, so maybe you get some bonus if you land on certain spots. But cool artwork, pretty simple game. And I think I don't think the pledge was that expensive either. Was it $30, Devin? Trying to remember. This is on Gamefound, and I get a little confused with theirs. Okay, close. It's 32 euros. And I think it was like $15 for shipping because it's coming from, I think, Europe somewhere. Anyways, so I don't know. I thought it looked pretty cool. It could be a solid kind of lighter game. That is Sneferu. Builders of the Pyramids. It ends on the 14th of September. Next up is one of the biggest ones in crowdfunding right now. This is Barrage, the Legendary Box. A lot of games do this when they are a big popular game and have had some expansions come out. They release a giant box inside of which you can hold everything. And so this box, Devin, how much do you think that box is? The box.
I just saw it.
Oh, you did. That's all right. That's the all-in if you want the box that has the game, that has the expansions, and has all the deluxe components. You can just get the empty box that probably has 22 plastic trays and stuff, but other than those, the box is empty for people that already own the game to like put inside and only have then at that point 1 box to hold all the stuff. 55 euros, so $60 box. $60 empty box, I should say.
Wow.
But these are a thing. They happen often. Barrage is a very famous game. I think Luciani is one of the designers. I don't remember the last name of the other one, but it's supposed to be a very mean game. I'm generally not a fan of too much meanness in my games of like, okay, I'm going to destroy your plan. Sometimes a little bit of it is okay and good. But this one's supposed to be really mean. You are I think you're trying to harvest energy by building these dams along this like system of rivers. And if you build your dam upstream from another player, then basically you get all of the benefits and you've blocked off like the benefits going downstream to the other player. So it's supposed to be pretty mean, but I know it's a very well-loved game. So if you like Barrage, if you've played Barrage, or if you have everything related to Barrage except for a big empty box, then this is probably a campaign for you. But yeah, that all-in prices, wow, it's brutal. It's like $300 before shipping. Yeah, $309 when you convert that from euros to. That's kind of crazy. But again, I like Cranio. What's it? Cranio Creations, I think is the name there, right above the big Barrage letters. Devin, what does that say? Cranio Creations, I think is the company there.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's I love like a Euro game. Like this is all me, but I think this Euro game is a little meaner than I want it to be. I would love to try someone's copy, but I'm not gonna buy this game yet until I either do more research or really know that I can put up with the meanness. That one ends on the 17th. Starter. Okay, next up is the Quest Kids, Realms of the Kingdom. This is an expansion for an earlier game called the Quest Kids, and it's a halfway cooperative. Well, not even really. It's a competitive game with slightly cooperative moments, and it's aimed at kids. The box says 5 and older, which I think is a cool age to put on the box to aim for. Most games, like 8 plus, is usually the lowest you see on a board game box. But I watched a video on this one, and it does seem pretty simple. You basically move your character through this dungeon, and based on the new tile that you explore, it will either be green, which means it's always a good thing. Gray can be either good or bad, and red is always a monster to fight. You do stuff. And the symbology is really big. It's not like the most pretty artwork in the world, but easy enough that I think a 5-year-old really could understand it. The Dice Tower, I know Tom Bassel played it with his kids, and they were really able to understand it no problem at all. I like playing games with my kids. The one that we've played the most is probably, well, we've played a few, but Chronicles of Avel is kind of one in a similar fantasy theme. I've also played Deep Dive, Space Invaders, and Crokinole and Clask. And I think there is like one or two more. Yum Yum Island they really like. We played one with them just a couple weeks ago. What was that? Oh, it's a Oh No Volcano, which is a pretty good one from Phil Walker Harding. Anyways, I really like games that are directed at kids, and this is supposed to be like a really good one that is even, fun to play as an adult. It's not like incredibly in depth or anything. You basically move to a tile and either fight a monster or get a new resource. It has this cool mechanism where the stars in the game are points. So if you defeat a monster, the bottom of the card has a number of stars, and you'll get those points at the end of the game. If you flip over a monster and you don't have enough resources to defeat the monster, then one of the other players in the game can play that resource to help you defeat the monster. And by doing so, they will get to draw a card from like the kindness pile or the kind hero pile, which will also give them some stuff. So they're incentivized to help sometimes too. So again, it's a competitive game. You're trying to get the most points, but you can kind of help each other out a little bit. Again, helps with the kid vibe, I think. So there's a new expansion, Realms of the Kingdom. I think has a new character and some new scenarios, and then they are selling the base game in there as well. So if you like to play games with kids, I wanted to give this one a shout out. It ends on September 18th. That is the Quest Kids. Next up is a solo-only game. They're calling it a solo plague survival game. It's a roll and write where there is this plague kind of trying to destroy your town. And at the beginning of each turn, you'll roll 4 dice in two of 2 different colors. And they will determine where on this 12 by 12 grid, which house or which square is hit with the plague. And basically, that house dies. If that house is hit again, then it like spreads to all 4 of the neighboring houses. And so you're trying to protect your houses, and you can put some in quarantine so that if they get affected or plagued, it won't spread. You can use these different ingredients to, I think, heal some of the people to stop the spreading, and you lose the game. I think the sentence they had in the campaign was you lose if the shape of the plague and destroyed houses in the town like matches a few failed shapes. I don't think they showed what they were. Maybe in the rulebook they did, but so if you get too much plague spreading around, you'll lose. But if not, then you can heal the people and save the town. It's supposed to be a pretty cool idea. This Nuka Zombie company has made, looks like this is their 8th created project, and at the bottom of this campaign they have their other ones too that you can look at as well. And they have quite a few different games there too. This game was, I think, recommended by the developer of the game that we both gave our pick of the week last week, the developer of Hive, that Bee game that we thought looked cool. So I wanted to give it a shout out. I know a little less about this one than I did about Hive, and I think Hive looks a little better just because it has a bit more like clarity and interesting sections on the board, where this one just seems like it's a town, and that town is basically just squares. There is like a little bit of detail behind the squares of like, this is this neighborhood. I don't think they called them neighborhoods, but and this is this neighborhood, and you don't want like a full neighborhood to be plagued or something. And I guess when you see it there, it does look better. The artwork is pretty cool and like gothic kind of feeling. And you can get, I think the $5 pledge gets you the game. Or they have a couple different maps. I think there's one based in Africa as opposed to England. And maybe one more. Yeah, there's Africa there. And then this one is Aztec. Yeah. Or you can get like, and China. Or you can get a bundle that has them all. So, yeah, I really like these. There are so many of these like roll and write print and play games. I don't try to bring up them here in Crowdfunding Corner unless I think they look like a step above I do that with all of the games, because if we just showed all of them, we'd be here all day. But Lepra, I think, looks like it could be a pretty solid one. Cool artwork. And it looks like a cool puzzle, even though I think that map of just squares is a little bland looking, but sometimes I don't mind if a game looks bland if it's just fun to play. So that one ends on the 18th as well. Lepra. Next is a game called Winter Rabbit. This is a semi-cooperative worker placement game. It was made by a team of, I think, what they said they're an indigenous-led team, and it's based on, I think, Cherokee folklore. How it plays is you will, I think, draw a tile from a bag that has different animals on them. I guess the rabbit is kind of the bad animal. You generally, anyway, you're going to draw one of these tokens and you're going to put it on a location face down. So nobody's going to know what you put where. So there's going to be a lot of like reading the room and probably talking to the other players, like making promises that you probably break and things like that. If somebody puts a rabbit at a location, then the resources there aren't gained. It says they're stolen and must be recovered later. But if nobody put a rabbit there, then when the location is full, all of the tokens flip over and you get stuff. So I think that's part of the game. I think they call it morning. Then in like the main phase of the game, you can play another villager, build your village with these cards, or restore kind of the damaged land. I thought the artwork looked cool. Cool idea. Like that it's based on a theme that we don't see very often. And I'm not usually a fan of semi co-op games. This one seems like it has a kind of fun idea with it. Because that would be a little hectic. Like, I don't know what you put there. I don't know what you put there. But we're all working together. If you scroll up just a tiny bit, Devin. Right there, stuff right there. This track, you're going to keep track of the resources that everyone has gained. If you fill the track completely by the end of the 4 seasons, then everyone's prepared for winter, and then whoever has the highest score wins. But if those 3 tracks there are not filled, then everyone loses. So that's the semi-cooperative thing, where you kind of need to work together and not, screw the other players over too often so that you can fill that track. But at the same time, you want the most points. Weird kind of balance. Some games do that, I think, really well. Nemesis is probably one of the most famous. Well, that one's more of like a hidden traitor, I think. But anyways, interesting idea. Wanted to give it a shout out. I do think it's a little pricey, but the pieces look really cool. And they're, from what I am understanding, a small publisher, and it's hard to get really low pricing until you've got like excellent manufacturing deals and stuff. But cool idea. That is Winter Rabbit. It ends on the 19th. Okay, 2 more. Next up is Northwest, a very cool looking game where you are taking dice. They look like dice, but basically they could just be tokens. They said they wanted this Kickstarter to feel deluxe. So all of the pieces are nice wooden dice shaped, but the sides of the die, I think, are all the same. If it's a leaf die, it's a leaf on all sides. If it's a pine cone die, it's a pine cone on all of the sides, I believe. That will fill like this center board, and on your turn you can move this little hiker pawn that will also be on the center board and take one of the dice, and then you'll put that die on your own board, and you're trying to build your own board in a way to score the most. And each of the different types of die have a different like scoring shape they want to be in to score points. Like some things want to be next to pieces of the same type. I think the Sasquatch wants to be not in the same row or column as another Sasquatch. The bee wants to be surrounded by a variety of other types of die that are not bees. So you're trying to puzzle all of that out to get the most points. But that worker on the middle board, where he is, will dictate which die you can take from the middle board. Whichever die the person before you took has like some movement rules associated with it. Like the mushroom one, if you took the mushroom and then it's my turn and the worker is at the spot where you took the mushroom, then I can take a die in any of the 8 surrounding spots. But if it's like a bee, then I have to move like a knight in chess in an L shape 3 spaces. So there's different rules based on what someone took before you. Cool little spatial puzzle idea. It kind of reminds me of this game that I haven't tried yet called Baron Voodoo, but this is a much like more nature and happy. Well, happy's not the right word. Like a minimalist nature theme. And I think it looks really cool. I like the double layered wooden exploration board. And I think it's a pretty good, maybe this is the one that was $30 that I was like, wow, it's like they're calling it deluxe with a wooden board. And yeah, $30. And I think the shipping is a flat $15 for anywhere in the United States, which is not a terrible shipping price, to be honest, for a Kickstarter. So I thought that was a pretty solid and awesome price for the game. I want to read the rulebook a little bit better to like understand the rest of the scoring possibilities, but wanted to give it a shout out. I thought it looked unique. Also pretty simple. Probably plays in a pretty short play time. And it's multiplayer solitaire in that you're doing your own thing on your own board, but you can look over and see like, oh, they want a bee. I don't want to move the hiker on the main board in the middle somewhere next to a bee or whatever. So you could kind of, it's like hate drafting a little bit in Azul something. You can kind of mess with the other players. Looks like a cool one. That's Northwest. It ends on the 19th, also on Kickstarter. All right, and then last up, this is a reprint of Raw. I think Raw came out in 1999 from Devin, who designed this game.
The Good Doctor.
The Good Doctor. He did, yeah, Reiner Knizia. It's one of the most well-loved auction games ever. And it got a very pretty reprint a couple years ago here from 25th Century Games. I think it's been very hard to find. And so they're doing a reprint campaign. I think it's really cool that they're doing this because, again, it's been tricky to find. They have a few different items in this reprint. They've got the standard edition, which is probably the one that I'm most interested in. The Pharaoh and acrylic edition are cool looking, and I do like the metal coins in those, but it's quite a jump in price, from $40 up to 90 or 100. And there already are some wooden pieces in the standard one. And then there is a Traders expansion there. Again, lots of wooden pieces in that $15 version. Raw and Right is a different version of Raw entirely. Meant to be a kind of a roll and write game, but instead with cards. And then a new one called Razzia, which I think is a different mafia rat theme added on to Raw. So just a bunch of different versions. You can mix and match stuff here. If I was going to get it, I think I would get the standard version plus the standard version of the Traders expansion. And yeah, I've been thinking about this one for a while. Raw is supposed to be, like I said, one of the most well-loved auction games of all time, I think. I just I need to look into it a little bit more. I really like the visual design here too. I think, if I remember correctly, Ian O'Toole might have done the art in this one, and it is very cool. So anyways, that's a reprint of Raw if you've been looking to get that game. It ends on the 20th, also on Kickstarter. All right, Devin, 7 games to choose from on your pick of the week. Which game is going to get that coveted award from Devin?
I want to say Raw, but I don't know enough about the game. It just from what it looks like, it looks cool to me.
It does look cool.
I am going to pick. I'm gonna pick for a couple reasons. Just the vibe, the colors, the price point, and it's unique in the fact that it seemed kind of strategic and like a puzzle game. I'm gonna choose Northwest.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think it looks really good. And again, when the campaign started by saying we wanted this to be a really deluxe campaign, it starts with wooden pieces and everything's nice and thick and pretty, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be $100. But then I scrolled down, I was like, wow, $30 reward? That's crazy. I mean, there's not a lot of components in the game. They have those, but there's 64 of those memento cubes, dice, whatever we want to call them. 4 boards. There's a bit in there. So it seems like it's a pretty good deal to me as well. So I think that is a good pick. I think I can't decide. I don't think I'm going to choose the Raw reprint, even though I might back it just because I'm curious about that game. Since it's a reprint, I think I'm not going to pick it this week. I think I'm going to choose the one that we don't know how to say. I'm going to say Sneferu, Builders of the Pyramids. I like the idea. It looks pretty light and simple to play. I like how simple it seems to upkeep between turns. You basically just draw a new tile and fill in the spot that was the tile was taken from. And I kind of like a public market like that where everyone can see a big stack of what's available. And as they're taken, they slide down. And so you're hoping ooh, I hope they take this one from that column so the one that I want continues to slide down and becomes cheaper. It's, drafting kind of at its most basic kind of form, but I think that seems pretty... I like it. And I like the artwork by the Micho. The pieces look pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think this one, I'm guessing just looking at that time track here, that the first player to get to these different locations on the board, these little checkpoints, is probably like gets that bonus tile. Like that one's 1 food, then 2 food or something. That'd be my guess. I don't know for sure, but I do like a short game that I can play in half an hour that's just like consistently good. That has like, and that's one reason I really like Scout right now, is it's just like 20 to 30 minutes, and man, it's cool. I generally, that's kind of the time frame I like, is something that's cool in a short time period, or I want it to be 90 minutes to 2 hours so I can really sink my teeth. For some reason, I like those 2 time frames. I don't know. When you get into like the hour mark, I'm like, I wanted you to be a tiny bit longer so that I feel like I've built up a little more, or I wanted you to be a tiny bit shorter. I don't know why. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But yeah, I think that one's going to be my pick of the week, even though I don't know how to say it. We got Sneferu, Builders of the Period. Not periods. Builders of the Pyramids. As my pick of the week. Cool. Well, that's going to do it for Crowdfunding Corner this week.